AI has made software developers dramatically more productive. Cursor, Claude Code, you've seen it. But the people who work with data all day, the analysts, haven't been considered as much. Building a dashboard the old way is still 40 or 50 clicks. Today's guest, Francois of Golden Analytics, has built a better way. He goes from raw data to a full interactive dashboard in about 2 clicks, then reshapes the whole thing just by asking. And we're going to watch it happen live. I'm trying something new on the channel. If you're new here, I'm Kyle. I've got about 10 years of experience in data, and I create content to help educate people on data and AI, the practical, hands-on side of it. I'm now bringing on the people building the tools I see as the future of data work and having them show you what those tools can really do in a live session. My guest today is Francois Ajenstat, founder and CEO of Golden Analytics, an AI native BI platform built to put an AI analyst directly inside your data workflow. Before Golden, Francois spent over a decade at Microsoft working on SQL Server and Office, and then rose to the role of Chief Product Officer over his 13 years at Tableau, helping take it from an early stage startup to a category-defining public company and the most well-recognized data visualization tool in the world. Before Golden, he most recently served as Chief Product Officer at Amplitude, and I first saw Francois pitch Golden Analytics at AI Council in San Francisco, and today he's giving us a look at how it works. I'm excited to welcome him. One quick note, this video is not sponsored. I'm sharing Golden Analytics because I genuinely think it's worth your time. Let's transition to the interview with a few seconds of an AI-composed K-pop cover song for Golden Analytics, which you'll see why that matters in a sec. All right, Francois, thank you so much for joining today. So the first question is, what are we going to learn today, and why should people want to watch this?
Well, Kyle, thanks for having me on the podcast. Today we're going to learn about new ways in which AI can help bring data to life. And how to think about the world of AI and BI coming together. I think a lot of us may have seen different ways to work with data. The old world of maybe point click, the new world of a chatbot for data. But what if there was a different world? A world that brings it all together and that makes analysts as productive, actually more productive than in the past. That's really what we're going to look at. And I think a lot of us have thought about tools like Cursor and Claude making developers more productive. But what about the data people? How do we make data people, analysts more productive? So hopefully this is what we're going to learn about today.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, what about the data people? So not to bury the lead, but you have a company called Golden Analytics, right? So I'd love to hear, before getting into scene a little bit, like, how did it come about? What was the problem you saw in the market? I suppose you just explained a little bit about it, and why is it called Golden Analytics as well?
Let's start with the name. Why Golden? It's a phenomenal name, clearly. But really, if you think in the world of data, the gold shows up everywhere. The medallion architecture, bronze, silver, gold. Gold is the trusted layer. You've got the golden customer record in CRM or CDPs, where that's the trusted layer. You mine data for gold. Like, you see that show up everywhere, right? You have some golden insights. Really seeing the word show up in the data world. And when I was thinking about doing this company, K-pop Demon Hunters was also the biggest show on Netflix. And
Great
there's
movie.
the golden song. So it was just like, it was an omen. It has to be golden.
So K-pop Demon Hunters is the inspiration for Golden Analytics, is what I'm hearing.
That is not what I said. It's trusted data, but it's a bonus on top. But it does kind of signal what we want to do. It's about going from data to trust, right? It's the trusted layer of the data. And the way that Golden really came about was that I'm a product leader. I was, 13 years at Tableau. I was at Amplitude as chief product officer. I was at Microsoft in the SQL Server and Excel team as a Cognos. So spent a lot of time building products in the data space. And I started thinking about not building a company, but really how does the role of product, my role, change in the world of AI? That's how this whole thing started. And I started reimagining really what does a product leader look like in this new world? And that's where I started playing with Claude and Cursor and Lovable and Figma Make and all these different tools. And I just felt unleashed. I felt empowered. I felt that anything was possible. And that was incredible, an incredible use of AI. So then I started looking in the world of data and I became frustrated and disappointed because the tools that exist for data people really haven't changed that much in the last 20 years. Maybe at the foundational level, when we started building the modern data cloud, that stack changed. But other than that, pre and post AI, they're kind of the same. And I'm like, wait, why do data people have worse tools than everybody else? That sucks. So with pain, there's great opportunity. And that started the thinking of if I had to rethink what analytics looks like in this post AI era, what would it be?
Makes a lot of
And
sense.
that was the beginning of Golden. And there was actually three things that we discovered in the process. The first one is this idea that you'll hear me talk a lot about, which is the slider of autonomy. And the slider of autonomy means really that you can dial up or down how much AI is used to do the task at hand. Because sometimes the AI is so much faster, but sometimes the human is actually so much faster. And so this ability to choose how much, how little, when was actually a really key insight. The second one was actually bringing the whole process together, connecting, preparing, analyzing, discovering, communicating data all in one surface. I saw a lot of friction in the journey of people that were using these tools. And we thought, how can we collapse it all? And then the third one is we're building a tool for the analyst, kind of like cursors for the developer. We're building for the analyst and really thinking about what are the tasks that they do every day and making those as simple as possible.
Awesome. Well, that seems to align really well with what we cover here too, because whenever I make a video, right, I'm thinking, okay, how is the practitioner going to utilize this? What aspects of their job is going to change too? And I really love the concept of the autonomy slider. I remember seeing this in your pitch presentation when I saw you at AI Council, but just how you can drag it up or drag it down too, where if you want to get something really particular, really right, maybe that requires a human touch to it. Otherwise, if you want to see, hey, this would be great if AI could do this work for me, then you can drag it up. So I think that's a great transition if you want to start actually showing what Golden looks like and how to use it.
I'd be happy to. All right, let me share my screen. There we go.
Perfect.
All right, so we're in Golden, and we're going to start by doing an analysis. So, of course, everything starts with data. We can connect up to databases like Snowflake and Databricks and BigQuery, and these are live. We can connect to different apps and services that are out there. We can connect to files like Parquet, CSV, JSON, the things you expect. But in my case, I'm just going to connect to the sample e-commerce sales. So the first thing you'll notice when you use Golden is we don't start with a blank screen. We start with discovery. We help you discover what is in your data. What does this data mean? What are some questions you could answer from this data? What are some insights about your data? What are the different ways you could visualize your data? Now, we've done this all automatically. We're trying to deliver the maximum value with the least amount of effort. Okay. And that was like a really, really deliberate attempt because you don't always know what questions you want to ask. You don't always know what is hidden in your data. And so we're trying to surface it as a way for you to both build trust about the data, hence Golden, but also allow you to figure out where should you go and explore the data. Now, in this case, I'm going to go in and say, all right, these are great suggested visualizations. I'm going to go and create my dashboard. Boom, dashboard is created. That was 2 clicks. Now, if I pause
Easy.
here, easy. But if I pause here and I think of how is this done today? If you want to build a dashboard, well, we'll use a current tool. It's probably 40, 50 clicks. We did it in 2. Even if you were to go in Claude and type it in, like the amount of prompting you have to do this, pretty extensive. But
Yep.
now this is where slider of autonomy is going to start coming in. So we built this, clearly AI did it, but I could keep going. I could say add region to the sales trend. So I can go modify and continue to work through it. Boom, it did it. Executives love some KPIs, so add some KPIs. You can keep not necessarily prompting, but augmenting what you're seeing, but you're always seeing it. Boom, those KPIs are created. Why'd you put on the bottom? Move them to the top and add a red border. And it's going to go do the thing.
So every single visual, every single formatting component too that you have, you can essentially arrive there through prompting. And that's really cool that you can see it rearrange itself in real time as well too.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. But yeah, you can do it all through prompting, but maybe what you actually want is say, why'd you create a KPI for average discount? I'm going to go change it to be number of records. Oh, great. Okay, awesome. Clearly, I have to change that title to number of records. Could I have reprompted that? Yeah, but so much faster this way. Or here, I want to configure this to be a pie chart because some people like pie charts. Great. Maybe I want to look at my other fields. All right, they're all right here. I'm going to go add state and province on the view. We'll make that bigger. I'll go drag that over here. Boom. Done. And it's all fully interactive.
And this is all
That's
within the
the
web
simplicity.
interface too, right?
All on the web, all simple. And yes, by the way, this is all driving SQL behind the scenes. So you can see all the SQL. It's completely transparent.
Awesome.
But
And that was
it's
going to
more
be,
than just, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say that was going to be one of my questions here too. And just like, how is it understanding the data, right? Because one of the things I've talked about previously on my channel is semantic layers and embedding context in your data so you ensure that you get the same answer, right, across different prompts or queries of that data, right? And so I'm curious how Golden thinks about ensures that, hey, every time we're talking about revenue with this data set, right, maybe it's a little bit more complicated than this demo data set, right, as it often is, but how do you ensure that you get that consistent answer?
So I think there's a whole range. In this case, if I just connect to data, I should be able to get value without any effort. Boom. This is how we got all that. But if you do have context, by the way, here I'm going to highlight the words on the left. We connected to data, we discovered it, we prepared it, we analyze it, we communicate it. But I'm going to go in the prepares section of the product. So this is where you do data prep operations, like cleaning and filtering, et cetera. But I'm going to go in the data dictionary. So we built this dictionary dynamically when we connected. And maybe, I want to manually go in, remember slider of autonomy. I could still, the AI built all this dictionary, say, these are my order codes. Just typing something in. Boom, I have control. But let's say I had the context, the semantics defined somewhere else. I could go import that dictionary, point to a wiki that has the context, or in my case, I'm just going to go bring in the file, which is right over here. Boom. And now I've read that context. It's mapping it to the data, saying, remember order ID should actually be called order number. And here's its description. Oh, ship mode, this is what it means. When you see the word standard class, rename it to standard. Very typical thing. Maybe zeros equals male, one equals female. That's an example. Boom, we can go apply and it's done. So now you see the new descriptions, all that's there. And if you're using, for instance, a Snowflake semantic views or Databricks Unity catalog, and you've invested in adding business metadata in those platforms, we get that for free as well. So we pull that in, we get the tags, we get it all right. I want to go in and showcase a few other ways in which we've tried to do some unique things. So let me just create a new analysis. If I were to ask a question like, what drives profit? Well, it might give you the answer, but maybe I want to visualize it. So it's going to break down profit across key dimensions and start doing some analysis. Boom, it created this driver tree. It created a different view. It's looking at it from different perspectives. Whoa. And so it's trying to look at it in different ways to give me a sense of what might be the right answer here. So if I go looking at this, I can actually go, let's bring back that driver tree for a second. We look at our driver tree. What just happened here? Sometimes there's some bugs. So we're going to go to our driver tree. There it is. Boom.
Nice.
So I can see profit is broken down by technology, office, and furniture. And you can see the contribution of each one. So it's a visual way. It's not just giving you the answers. It's also trying to help you visualize that answer. See that all there.
It's a really neat way to visualize hierarchical data.
Yeah. Because look, I think sometimes the chat interface is awesome. It's great to chat with your data. But reading it is one thing. When you can see it, maybe it opens up new questions. Like, wow, chairs is growing quite a bit, but what happened with bookcases and tables? I mean, there's a massive drop with tables. What else could I do? Well, of course, we can go pull in some automated insights. I can go look at some things. I can do, we're pulling out all these insights in the data. I could go deeper and do multidimensional analysis. We're doing all these things. By the way, have you noticed a few things in here? All of this was powered by the LLMs. The LLM is the silicon chip that we're built on. But instead of just giving you another chat bot, what we have built is essentially multiple layers above the LLMs to build bespoke experiences for data analysis. This is all just really reconfiguring and pre-prompting essentially for the task that an analyst does.
Yeah. It's designed for the visual storytelling that is a part of every BI professional's day to day, right? How you have to think about how can I display this information in a way that's able to be understood and actioned on.
That's right. But there's an aspect of it as well. It's like seeing the data helps you understand the data. Sometimes there's this indirection with when you work with classic prompting tools with LLMs, like you don't always see it. Like I want to be able to touch it. I want to be able to do something. So if I look here at like ship mode, we're going to call this, Kyle mode. I touch it, I change it, manual mode. But what if I wanted to take customer ID and split it into two? Here I'm going to say smart split and just type in what I want. Split into two. And the LLM will look at a sample of the data, say, all right, customer prefix, customer number. Done. I didn't have to write code to do that. It did it for me.
And this is just creating calculations within your data, right? Just to make sure I understand it. So it's not actually writing back anything into your core data source, but it's all contained within the golden infrastructure here.
Correct. Because your data is your trusted data. We won't change it. Now what we're doing, we're enriching it. We're creating aliases and calculations. Now, sometimes we may create, I'll call it a mini data set in here. So let's say, for instance, I'm looking at state province. I wanted the state code. Can I go enrich this? Or add the state code? So now the LLM, using different web search APIs, will be able to go and figure out how to go pull that in, right? Texas TX, Illinois IL. Great. Awesome.
And a question here too, because I imagine, so like if you're working in a company, you have, say information stored in Confluence documentation. I saw you had like that Atlassian connector, just as an example, right? Let's stick with that, but any platform can be there. Could you say to something like that, oh, maybe we have, documentation that's stored in those sources too. Can you enrich, the data or enhance definitions? For example, if, oh, my data dictionary is in Confluence, right? Can you reference this page that I have in there?
Yeah. For that example, what you would do is you go to the import dictionary and just point to
Okay,
that
sure.
Confluence page.
Awesome.
And that's it. You
So it
just
doesn't
bring
have
it
to be
in.
structured even, right? It can
No.
just be, okay. That,
Yeah. But of course, how you connect the dots, right? The more structure you have, the better it connects to structured data, but it doesn't have to be the same. What we're trying to do is find ways to minimize potential hallucination, right? Especially when you bring those things together. So what we try to do is to be very, very specific that whatever insight we give you, we always try to support it with facts. Here's another example of how we do that, by the way. Let's say here, it brings in that chart, but it didn't do it in this case. Normally, this is the beauty of live demos. Sometimes they don't go exactly as planned.
that's why I like live demos too, because you get some of the troubleshooting there, right? Which is the real
Exactly.
experience of utilizing the tool.
Exactly. All right, here it did it. So when I give an explanation, I don't just tell you the explanation. I also connect you to the data. Notice I said a peak of, I show you, here's the peak. And a low of, boom, I show it down there. Phone stands out as a top performer. Labels, envelopes, and blah, blah, blah are less than 20K. So we're trying to connect the dots so that the explanation and the data come together. And that enhances the trust.
It's great. And I mean, I have a couple more questions actually too. This is really, it's so compelling just to have this visual interface alongside the explanations there. And so, putting myself in like a data analyst, mindset, right? Or oftentimes in virtually every company I've worked in, which the data is messy, right? You have duplicate columns, you have tables that maybe aren't normalized, it's not an ideal modeled structure, right? And
Wait, that
so
happens? What?
who would
I
have
thought
thunk
we
it,
lived in a
right?
perfect world of unicorns and rainbows.
And so I'm curious how Golden in particular helps you navigate some of those challenges, right? Where, okay, so say I have a Databricks, Unity catalog that has hundreds of tables, right? And, me as a data person, right? Obviously, I should know, understand my data to a certain extent, but are there ways that Golden is positioned to help you sort of navigate those challenges and identify, those issues within your data or overcome them even?
Yes, where it's also, there's no magic in what you do,
Sure.
right? Like I can't take junky data and turn it into gold. But what I can
Yes.
do is, here we are in the prepare section. I can suggest fixes for this data. So I can look at it and say, here's some things that you could do that will make it better for data analysis. I could go in and say, can you suggest new fields I could add to this data? And here's the calculations. Boom, we can add those in. I could say, can you filter out dupes? And it's going to go in and say, look, I found some dupes. Here they are. Would you like me to clean those? Every time I do an operation, we keep track of the history. So
That's really helpful.
we know all the steps you did, and then you can save this as a recipe. So if you go through this every time, you could do this again, to be like standard. So you see that show up there, Kyle mode to standard. That allows you to create repeatability in what you do.
And I feel like this is so helpful too. I know I threw a tough question at you there, right? But
no, but it's a real question. It's a real thing
question,
that
right?
Data people hit all the time. And
I think just having, putting myself in a mindset, right? Having that auditability there, having those suggestions there, it's tremendously helpful, because that's one of the things you want to see: what steps are taken on this data to clean. And then, in some ways, this is a supplemental tool where I can now maybe go back to my core data sources and, solve that problem there. Whereas, in the previous non-AI enabled, visualization world, you oftentimes spend so much time combing through your data. I know I have, right? When I've created dashboards and visualitions and people say, hey, this doesn't look right. And then I'm like going through lines and having that interface there to surface those issues for you and the transformations done is going to be tremendously helpful. And I think emphasizes the point, right? That the data analyst is still, it's a critical component of this to bring that context and knowledge to your data. And this is a tool that's just going to help you and enhance you to do your job on a, better and more efficiently.
Absolutely. And I think that the important, like the element in there is, and you said it, which is an analyst's job is to understand the business context, the questions. They need to know the business better than the others and what's the right data to bring to bear. What we want to do is to make the tools effectively go away, right? You shouldn't be an expert in the tools. You should be an expert in your business, in the data.
So well said.
And
so well said.
As a tool provider, what I'm trying to do is give you as many ways for you to get there as fast as possible. And sometimes it's point click, sometimes it's chat, sometimes it's all these things, but the job is hard. Data analysis is hard. And there's lots of gnarly data issues to go deal with. There's lots of really hard business questions to answer. How do I give you an unfair advantage to get? That's what we're really trying to achieve. And I think the LLMs give us a foundation to build faster, to deliver things that were really hard to do and make that super simple. And I think these experiences really provide a new way to communicate and work with data that is much more fluid than maybe it was in the past. It keeps you in the flow, but it helps you achieve the outcomes so much faster than what was previously possible.
Yeah, it's a really well-received point, being the expert on the data in your business, right? As opposed to, I don't know, just the expert on the tool itself will just lead to better outcomes for the business and allow you as a practitioner, right? As a person building these dashboards, to place yourself. I always find data to be a very empathetic role, where you have to place yourself in the shoes of the people who are going to be reading your dashboards, right? Or reading the things that you build, and saying, okay, what is it the value that they're going to get out of this? And having something where you can focus on that is a real value unlock.
Yep, totally.
Awesome, Francois. Was there anything else you want to show us for the interface too, as we wrap?
I can
wrap
go
up
and
here?
everything, show you all the cool tricks. Look, I think there's a lot of features that are in here, and it's not about the features. It's about empowering people. And the mission statement of Golden is, how do you make people extraordinary with data? And it's that word extraordinary that I'm really attached to, because we want you to be the hero. We want you to do your jobs better with data. And whether this is the right interface or you prefer to chat with your data directly, like however it is, we provide those different ways for you to get there. make that really simple. Because the more that the humans have that advantage, the more that I think you'll be able to differentiate your jobs. I think the role of the analyst is more important today than it's ever been. While it's way easier today than ever to do data analysis, the role of the analyst is still crucially important. And I think I don't want us to forget that. And it's a really hard job. And I want to help them really become the heroes in their organizations and hopefully bring more people that always have wanted to but couldn't, and connecting the dots between the can and the wants in a way that I think becomes really, really exciting and powerful and I think empowering, unleashing, like whatever the right word I'm trying to find.
Yeah.
That's
The big
where I get really excited.
adjective,
Yeah,
insert big compelling adjective here.
exactly.
No, I mean, and I think they're the right ones to utilize because, when I see a product like Golden, and I know you and I chatted a little bit before this, but I really see it as a future of, you know, data work where you have something that is very much AI forward, AI enabled, and you as a data person who's working with something like that, right, you're in charge of being the steward of that data, right, and being that critical eye, that critical review, and understanding, okay, here's where I can drive the autonomy up, where the data is super clean, it's super pristine, and I know that I can give this to Golden, and then produce insights that are going to be immediately valuable to the user, within seconds, right, or minutes, as you showed. And then here's the driving the autonomy down, where it's really my skill set, my critical thinking, and understanding my data is going to be the most valuable piece in enabling my organization with these insights. And what I've seen with AI is just it's made organizations more and more data hungry as well. And so tools to help you make sense of that and enable that further. Now the fact that we can parse out information faster than we ever could, and having a tool that allows you to do that over your golden layer of data, create that golden layer of data is tremendously valuable. But is there
Well, thank you for
anything?
that. I totally agree. I agree.
Yeah,
Right.
a shocker, right?
Well, I think there's fundamentals that don't change about
Yeah,
business, right? Data-driven businesses are just more successful businesses. If you can use data to support more of your decisions, you're going to make better decisions. That doesn't mean you need perfect data. That doesn't mean you need to, do analysis paralysis. But how do you get an advantage? I think the biggest difference today compared to before is speed. Like, we know AI is moving so fast. It's crazy fast. Like, we're able to build so fast. We ship more in a week than the traditional companies do in a quarter. That's insane. But it means now, as a customer, as a recipient of all this stuff, if you're a data person, damn, everything around you moves faster. So you need to have as many advantages as possible, because speed is now the biggest issue. And we don't want the technology is not the limiting factor. It's how much can you do, how quickly, and that's how you differentiate.
one thing I've always thought too is, and even in the world of AI now, is data people have always had more to do than they've been able to get to, right? And the speed point you just made lands really well, just because now you can do more, right? Is the reality of the equation. Now you can do more with tools like these that remove that friction, that allow you to enable the business with insights that otherwise in the previous world, short 2-3 years ago, would have
That's right.
taken weeks.
And you can
But
do more, and more people can do more too. And hopefully you can do more of the valuable work rather than the work you don't like, and enable people to do the work that they want to do that they couldn't do. Building a dashboard, having tickets to say, oh, look at it this way or that way. Like, other people should be able to do that themselves. They just weren't enabled. You can do higher value work. So it's more all the time. Like, it feels like there's more. But I also think it's empowering because you do want to utilize your data in the right way. Because
absolutely,
that's the power of data.
really is. Well, as far as Golden goes, right? How can people try it out? What are the things? If you guys now's your time for a plug.
Great. You too can be golden for the low, low price of, I'm just kidding. If you go to goldenanalytics.com, there's a lot of information on there, videos, and you can request to join the waitlist. We're still on the waitlist right now because there's so much demand and want to make sure everybody has a great experience, but lots of great content. And we're looking forward to partnering with everybody to build the future of analytics together.
And the future is apparent when you showed that. I'm very excited to see it and get more into it and try it out myself too as well. So one last question for you personally, as a person who utilizes AI, right? What's one valuable thing, and it can be within Golden or outside of Golden, that you use AI for that you think might be a helpful tip that you can share with other people?
Oh boy. I mean, I feel I use AI all the time for everything, all across all jobs. I actually find the workflow that has changed for me is how I communicate or take down ideas. I use Whisper Flow as my way of narrating and dictating my thoughts. Then I bring that into Claude or ChatGPT, depending on the flavor of the day, and I get it to edit it. And then I just Whisper Flow again through it all. And it's just like, it's completely changed my flow overall. Sometimes I'll even go and start with call recordings, customer calls, and I'll say, can you summarize the value propositions or list out all the questions they asked? And then I'll Whisper Flow the answer to it all, and it'll just fill them all in. And so everything that I do, it's funny, the voice to text is kind of the interesting interface that is changing for me. And I never really thought about it. I just kind of thought it's just a thing, but actually it is a thing I do all the time. And it is accelerating my entire workflow. Pretty amazing.
It's a great tip. And yeah, the emails I've sent to you have been whisper flowed as well too, and gone through a similar sort of process. So
it's pretty amazing.
It is really amazing. Well, awesome. Francois, thank you so much for sharing Golden, for sharing your tip. I'm really excited to see where Golden goes. It's clear that you guys have a great product and you're building out the future of analytics. So thank you so
Kyle,
much for joining the show, and we'll talk soon.
Appreciate the partnership.